r/ask Reddit. What was the cringiest thing you did in your first relationship? I sat in the car with her for an hour debating whether I should kiss her. I debated out loud too. No joke. I was literally like, I could kiss you now. But should I? Dear God, why did she ever date me? Ugh. Can I kiss you? Was the smoothest thing I could come up with. There was this guy that I used to make out with that lived on a lagoon. We knew another person that lived nearby, so we could use her paddle boat to pass by the back of his house. We didn't see him out in the yard, so desperate and hormone-fueled young me starts yelling his name to see if he'd come out. This was pre-cell phones. I yelled and yelled for a long time, doing circles in the paddle boat, and the friend I was with was like, dude, give it up. He's not home. But he was home. He told us later that his whole family was sitting down to eat and heard me screaming his name over and over like a ducking cat in heat. So embarrassing. Why didn't he just ducking come out and tell y'all to shut up for a few seconds, lol. We weren't official yet, so when he held my hand in public I told him we can only do it for 5 seconds at a time and I would literally count down, out loud, the seconds. Yeep. We still joke about it and I still cringe. You guys, a thread has been so healthy for me. Never have I ever felt so secure in who I am as a person. Because, I may have been a cringy little shit back then, but Jesus Christ. Guys, thank you all so much for sharing all these stories. This has been immensely cathartic. This was less a relationship and more a crush. He was walking me to the subway station, and I wanted to hold his hand. I reached for it and he just kind of kept his hand stiff, so I walked with him with our palms flat against each other's, held out in front of us. Why 15-year-old me? Why? I had a similar experience. I was on a date with a boy walking around a mall when I decided to reach over to hold his hand. The second our hands touched he pulled away and said, "I'm too tired." I still laugh at this, although it's probably more cringy for him. Can't hold hands, sorry, I have a headache. Driving back from the drive-in theater, she takes her bra off under her shirt because it is uncomfortable, and my next move? Turn on my Barenaked Ladies CD and recite all of 1 week. I don't think I hit the high notes in the purest form, as it didn't seem to have the intended effect of wooing. I'm both you and your first girlfriend. I was too clingy and insecure. He would hang out with his friends and I'd text him, "Hi, do you remember me?" I was just this psycho bitch. I would not date my younger self. I would send my girlfriend emails to let her know my daily plan and everything I was doing. And I would expect the same from her. No wonder she dumped me after 4 months. My lack of self-esteem made me the clingiest. For some reason I pretended like I didn't ever eat. I would never eat around them. It makes me cringe to think about it now. This reminds me of my freshman year of college when I became friends with these 3 guys, 2 of whom lived in a condo together. I'd hang out at their places for hours, but I didn't want to use their bathroom because I'm a lady, so I'd leave when I couldn't hold it in anymore and use the first public bathroom I came across. I thought they didn't know. One day one of them shows me to the bathroom furthest away from the living room, turns on the light, fan, and faucet, hands me a can of air freshener, and told me to please feel free to use their bathroom. How did they find out? That's pretty funny. The piss trail was a dead giveaway. First relationship. 14 years old, with the girl for a few weeks, and decide it's time to find out what's under her pants. Watched porn before, so I knew, but never touched it. Audibly said, "Wow, it's squishy." She still brings it up 15 years later. We're still friends. I cringe every time. I had a crush on a girl, and after years of innocent flirting I didn't know how to take the next step, so one day I text her, "I love them big ol' boobies of yours," and she never spoke to me again. I still cringe thinking about it. It was just so out of the blue. I was just so stuck in this innocent flirting mode and didn't know how to take the next step, so one day I just decided I would take a trust fall and I fell flat and hard, lol. Mayo, what the hell? I know, right? But I'm sure lots of guys have made a similar mistake when they're close to a girl and they want more but aren't sure how to advance the relationship to the next level. After enough time goes by you just take a shot, but sometimes that shot not only misses but it misses the entire backboard. Flies into the third row and knocks a baby into an old lady, causing her drink to spill onto a handicapped person's electric wheelchair. Shorts out the controls, forcing it into drive. It rolls down 3 levels. Sparks cause it to catch on fire and it goes full speed into the floor seats occupied by the 5 Make-A-Wish Foundation kids. You know, sometimes that happens. My first one. He broke up with me and I started bawling for a good hour while he hugged me. Poor dude probably just wanted to home. My first serious one. I never talked to him because I was shy, but we made out at school every day in front of everyone. I ducking hate teenage me. LOL, I'm also shy and I had a relationship when I was 15 and the guy was 17. I rarely talked and his friends were jerks about the age difference, but we made out a lot. Then he broke up with me and broke my heart, and I would put sad lyrics on my I am away messages and info. He blocked me. Shoot me PLZ. When my high school BF broke up with me, I was more angry than sad and I told everyone in an away message that his semen was chunky. LOL, looking back I do wonder why his semen was so chunky, and also realized why I was single for so many years after. Holy replies. Well, it was rude of me to tell everyone we know that he had chunky jizz and he was very embarrassed by it. I doubt he had gonorrhea since we never even had sex. I just gave him head all the time and got nothing in return, and he stayed a virgin for God knows how long. I dunno, I guess your guess is as good as mine. If a text went unanswered for more than 5-7 minutes, I would hit resend again and again. And this was like 2007, so phone plans were not what they are now, and I was using my mom's, which had no texting included. Poor guy and poor parents' phone bill. A guy would do this too, except with calls. Would call, let it ring twice to leave a missed call, then hang up and repeat. The way I figured it, if I left like 20 missed calls, it would come across as showing her how much I really wanted to talk to her. Just point to a hole in the ground so I can jump into it, please. Early in my current relationship, neither myself nor my girlfriend wanted to be the first to say I love you. To avoid saying it, I once said I like you with all the likes in the world. In Catholic middle school, my religion teacher used to always tell us love the person, hate the sin. So for the longest time, I told my girlfriend I love you, but I hate your sin. And she did the same. Thank you for reminding me of this. I was pretty emotional. I thought relationships were like the movies. Every moment was supposed to be schmoozy. Made a complete idiot out of myself. This was me, 100%. You live and you learn. Sounds like my first girlfriend TBH. We were a terrible match because I was scared of commitment and refused to lie about loving her. I just don't. We've only been dating a couple of months and I'm 17. I'm sorry I don't love you. I might someday, but not now. Led to a lot of arguments. I introduced her to my friends by giving her a standing lap dance while she slapped my ass. No idea why I did that. It was just one of those times where you're like, well, I already started. Might as well go all the way. Dear God. I had a crush on her in high school but didn't know how to talk to girls. So I dyed my hair and grew a mullet to get her attention. I guess I was thinking courting was like how animals do it in the wild or something. Like peacocks. I would like to hear David Attenborough describe this while cameras followed you while you dyed your hair, grew a mullet, and walked the high school halls. He would end with something along the lines of, sadly, this strategy does not prove successful. I spent hours making half-heart necklaces out of perilla beads, one for each of us, that we could both wear to signal that we were committed to each other. Oh, sweet lamb. Tell me this was, like, middle school. I was 13. He was 14. We would make these dumb ducking video stories with shitty green screens, and I know he still has the videos around somewhere but refuses to show me due to cringe LOL. Though, I think the one that takes the cake is the time we went to see a shitty rom-com in theaters. But his mom insisted on not leaving us alone. She sat in the row behind us and would TSK every time he would try to put his arm around me. Wow, his mom sounds like a beach. She and I did that thing where if we texted each other and used a smiley face or put a period, we immediately assumed the other person was in a crappy mood. A fight would quickly ensue because of images and punctuation. I wish I could slap myself in the past. I didn't know how to break up with someone. The obvious solution was to get them to break up with me by becoming slowly more and more awful to them until they broke up with me. In woodworking class, if you don't start being nicer to me, I might break up with you. Okay. Don't feel too bad. A 30-year-old man basically broke up with one of my friends that way, over text message. Could you imagine two people like this dating? They get nastier and nastier, but never break up. We were each other's first real boyfriend-girlfriend. Met as new freshmen during orientation week at our university. Gave each other a disgusting amount of very dark, very visible hikeys during a week where we'd be meeting a ton of new people, including academic advisors and RAs. Oh man. And those RAs and advisors knew exactly what was up. Duck in first week freshman. The first time I kissed a guy I was 18 years old. Up until then my only exposure to kissing was from sex scenes in shows, movies. So when we started making out, in public, in the sub at our uni, I made moaning noises because I thought that's what you were supposed to do. God, I hate myself. I can't even look at him anymore. I just see idiot me moaning like an a-hole. I died a little inside reading this. I was beyond jealous, always accusing and getting angry over nothing. Looking back, IDK how she put up with it. I regret how I acted 100%, and I'm almost positive if I hadn't been such a dong we might even still be together. To make it worse, I broke up with her. She was devastated and upset for a long ass time, and again I was an inconsiderate douche. Years later we reconnected and both still had feelings, but I still hadn't grown up and couldn't look past shit that never even happened. Don't be jealous. If there's a legitimate reason, talk about it. Don't jump to conclusions on your own. Sang an Aerosmith song to her, so ducking up. Dude looks like a lady. Ugh, at least it was Aerosmith. I sang Yellow by Coldplay to her. It was supposed to be more of a joke, but she loved it and ended up playing that song every time we drove around. Once my friends found out, they didn't hesitate to unleash a brigade of "you know how I know you're gay" jokes. I broke up with him over text message, and 3 days later I asked him to get back together and he said no. I cried and he still said no. We continued to see each other as friends with benefits, which basically was he could see other girls and I could only see him. This lasted about 3 years, and when he started seeing other girls I would message them pretending to be him, telling them to duck off. I was in a terrible, terrible place. Total cringe. 13 years old me was so excited that my boyfriend, now ex-husband, asked me to be his girlfriend that I excitedly jumped up and down shouting "thank you" again and again. I felt the urge to repeat it when he signed our divorce decree 10 years later. Edited to add, we were in love for years. We married when I turned 18. When I was almost 20, he had a fling with a friend's sister. I left out to a bar at noon the day after I found it out. When I left the bar with another friend, my ex-husband pursued us in a car chase, ran us off the road twice and chased after me into a gas station where I begged someone to call 911 while I hid behind the counter. Someone who witnessed the chase had already called it in, and a bouncer from the place across the intersection had came and subdued my ex-husband until the police came in. He was charged with felonious assault and carrying a concealed weapon. I should also add, he fought me tooth and nail over the divorce. Demands that were laughable, such as a request for a ring that he quite literally threw into Lake Erie, a watch that never was in my possession, a broken TV stand, and clothing of his that he accidentally burned with the pile of mine he ignited in our kitchen during a fit of rage. From when I filed for divorce until he signed there was about 3 years time passed. TLDR, we married. He cheated. I left him and a car chase ensued. 2 counts of felonious assault and carrying a concealed weapon. We're married now. Don't ask me how the duck, but out of the cringiest things we did was, we had no ducking clue how to French kiss, so we kinda twirled our tongues around for a while, and sometimes he had a habit of holding a drink inside of his mouth, and then passing it into mine, totally snowballing before we even knew what that was. I'm not allowed to bring this up because he twitches in embarrassment, even though I try to tell him we're literally not the only ones who have ever done this. But before having sex for the first time, we waited for about a year or so. We used to dry hump a lot. He's so ashamed. Whenever I bring this up he'll cover his face and cringe so hard he twitches all over. But seriously, I've heard a lot of couples that went through the dry hump phase before becoming sexually active. I'm 30 and still appreciate some good bump and grind. I don't feel cringy and men have never complained. I hope he can let go of that shame. Can confirm. Dry humped a lot before the first time, about 6 months in. Then, the first time was so horrible it took us another 6 months to actually do it again. So we dry humped the hell out of each other. Gave her all of my stuffed animals, like, brought them all to school. OP said cringe, not tragedy. I called my first BF's home every night, multiple times if he wasn't home when I called earlier. These were days before cell phones were super common, so it was a landline shared by the whole family, which made it even more embarrassing because the whole freaking family knew I was calling. Once I finally got him on the phone I'd talk about anything and everything. He'd rarely say a word, which made me talk more to fill the silence. I'm now convinced that he'd put the phone down and play video games while I talked into the air for an hour or 2 or 3. Back when I was in high school and I went out with a girl I had a huge crush on. We went to the zoo and then grabbed some food at some place. Afterwards, we had to split up in order to get our trains that were going in the opposite directions. I awkwardly tried to lean in for a kiss while she went in to hug me, and I ended up headbutting her in the face and her nose started bleeding. I was so embarrassed and I just asked, "Are you okay?" And when she said, "I think so," I just waved goodbye and ran into the train station. One of my first ones anyways. I was going to try sexy time with my lady, and though I only tried it like 2 times total before with someone else, I felt like I was well versed in the subject. Anyways, we are naked, under the covers, and I am on top of her. As not to get too descriptive, I am ready to go, and I was under the impression that I could perhaps get her aroused if well, there is no easy way to explain this, so I'm just going to say, if I essentially scraped my erect member back and forth on her bean as hard as I could. Think sharpening a knife. Yes, exactly that motion, back and forth with a rock hard member of a football playing 16-year-old. Well, she did not really understand why I was doing that, but allowed me to do it as she, though I liked it and was not very well versed in the matter either. I think back on what her face looked like, and I will say with certainty, in retrospect, that's not what pleasure looks like, I asked her the next day if she liked it and she said it was absolutely terrible, for which I was forever apologetic because I didn't really like it either. I just thought maybe she would. I think about it today and almost have an aneurysm from cringing so hard. Had a crush on a really nice girl when I was 14. But we had never really talked or had much of a conversation even in the classes we had. Sent her a flower on Valentine's Day without my name, but someone told her. Had her friend ask if she was interested in me, to which she said that she doesn't really know me. Here comes the cringe. 14-year-old me takes that literally and then waited for her where we both walked between some classes. I proceeded to tell her my life story and history of where I had lived, what I had done from birth to now. I can't believe I was that awkward. At one point tried to compliment her as well, but used the wrong word and I could tell that really set her off. So I cut my losses and figured out I had really screwed up, was super creepy, and then left her alone. 1 year later, without any interaction since then, we now had a common friend and were walking with said friend down the hall. She asks me how I did on the test in one of our classes, but I don't respond. She signals at me with a hello, to which I reply, "Who, me? Sorry, I didn't think you would ever talk to me again after last year." We eventually became friends and I just laughed off the super awkward way I acted when I had a crush on her. We went out as friends a few times and she was really fun to talk to in one of our classes senior year. Glad I was able to have a good friend in the end. When I was 14 or 15, my first boyfriend said he was going to kill himself if I didn't kiss him. I kissed him. Wish I would have walked away and told an adult instead. After I had an orgasm during sex with him, we were laying next to each other in bed and I sort of tapped his hip with the back of my hand. He asked what that was and I said it was a thank you tap. He didn't really respond, but a few days later after I gave him oral, he tapped my back the same way. so it ended up kind of being our thing. But it was very cringy for me the first time. Whoa, you made it to the end? You're a ducking beast. I'll cut you a deal. Smash like and subscribe for more curated content, bruh. It's free and that's a great price.